There we go. Well,
This is your
this
world.
yeah. So the writers' strike officially started yesterday. As a reminder, the last one was in 2007 and it lasted 100 days. It might have been 2008. I should remember it because we lost our house because of it. We'll never be able to have a house again. Yay. But it's starting again. And, one of the problems I think is the image of Hollywood, and what we only see are the famous people. And there's a lot of rightful indignation and anger about some of the people who are the most famous. But most people who are just kind of working writers, working actors, working behind the scenes on sets are not wildly famous or wealthy. And so I think this is a really good explainer about what's happening, because it does have repercussions for everybody. Even though there are a few high profile writers, most people are not high profile, and it really is just the little guy fighting against the billionaire studio bosses. So this is John Rogers. Something very stupid you're going to see over the next weeks are people arguing that screenwriters are being unreasonable. Times have changed. No, times were changed by somebody, by people making choices. There's an unfortunate tendency in modern American thought to write about economies or markets like they're the weather, like they're natural phenomena, market forces, the invisible hand, etc. Shit just happens. Can't be helped. That's bullshit. Economies, markets are products of human thought. They are shaped by the rules we place upon them and distorted by the will of those who operate within them. The Hollywood market is currently being distorted by choices made by powerful people with considerable agency. The most foolish of these choices is to no longer make the metric of success be, success. The bosses of these companies have stopped caring about whether the shows and movies are profitable, because they are. We know they are. The companies have made between $28 and $30 billion in profit. That's profit every year for the last 5 years. They've decided to chase the classic tech bro financialization metric, the mania of modern Wall Street: growth, nonstop growth, something you can base stock options on. But as the man says, the only thing that grows forever is cancer, and even that eventually kills the host. The new robber barons of Hollywood are on a suicide run. They'll extract much wealth out of the system as they can before it crashes, and they'll beat up the workforce as much as they need to create savings to make Wall Street happy, to stretch out the run. This is not new. This is classic vulture capitalism. This is what happened to Kmart, Toys R Us, and airline stock buybacks. It's just moved from hard infrastructure and retail to the information and entertainment world. So this struggle may seem like a very specialized conflict between a very small guild of unusual professionals and their very specific employers. But this is 100% part of the larger madness that's drowning the modern economy. It's all the same fight. This one's just nerdier. The WGA is just lucky, and not really lucky. We're benefiting from 90 years of other writers sacrificing for us, that we happened to be organized enough and powerful enough when our turn came to draw a line. Spoiler alert for other unions and workers, your time will always come. There's a well-established, profitable system to make quality entertainment that keeps everybody happy, healthy, paid, and in shape to make their best possible work for the delight of millions of audience members. That system is being gutted thanks to hubris and greed. Man, I do not want to strike. None of us do. But if we don't, mine is the last generation of screenwriters who will have a chance to have a stable career. We will damn all the screenwriters who come after us to a gig economy with all that entails. I'll go down swinging to stop that. I owe the writers who came before and those who come after. See you on the line tomorrow and every day for as long as it takes. WGA strong.
Yeah, my read on that, and obviously so much more about this than me because you're actually in the industry. But I listened to NPR and you didn't. So
there you go.
Just give you my
Tell me, what do they think?
It comes down to the gig economy part, because they're trying to devalue all the work of the writers.
Right.
And the way Hollywood is structured already, which Lila and I did talk about before the show. But writers don't have power in the field industry. They can write a brilliant script, a brilliant whatever, and they'll get approved for the first phase of it. But then, they think they have a contract for a long period, but you have to get approved for the second phase, and you work your way through it for crumbs along the way, relatively. And there's no guarantee that, even though you brought this great script to the industry, that you're the guy who ends up on the getting any profits from the movie. Like, you're not going to see that 99% of the time. So they're trying to make it gig worker. They want a couple screenwriters to write the whole thing and then hand it off to somebody else who's going to do the rest. And there's no guarantees for writers.
There's no, and again, I really like in that thread, and the reason I wanted to kind of go through it in detail like that is because it's what's happening in every industry. We see teachers have to have 2 to 3 side jobs, right? And the way they've done it, it used to be there are 26 episodes of your favorite show, and the hope was that it would get to 100 because then it would be sold into, you would get residuals. I can't even think of the word when it happens over and over. Syndication. Wow. And now I think probably people have noticed there's 8 or 13 episodes of a show, which not only means it takes longer for it to go to syndication, but on these streaming networks, you don't get paid in that same structure of residuals. But if there are only 8 episodes, you're only hired for 8 to 12 weeks. And then you're having to find another job somewhere in there. And, I live with a writer who mostly writes feature films. He can work for a year and a half for free to get a job. So that's turning in drafts, getting notes, just hoping that, and then sometimes they use all that and hand it off to the person that they actually hire because there's no real protection and you don't want to speak up because there's always somebody who's, it's like, so this is a microcosm, I think, of, as he says in that thread, of what's happening in every industry in this whole country. They are trying to make people as desperate as possible because you're always replaceable and you're always this close to losing your healthcare, your home, your job, whatever it is.
Well, they're selling the dream of a career as a writer to a lot of people who are actually just barely making the minimum. And that's the change that's happened in the industry. 10 years ago, a third of TV writers were paid the minimum. And now it's gone up to about half.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, look at the profits. The profits, they dipped a little bit from 2021. They're probably up now because more people were home during the pandemic, I would imagine.
But again, these are the profits. It's been between 28 and 30 billion dollars for the last 5 years. So it's like, give or take a couple billion, but it's still way up there. And that was since they said, oh, we don't know what the streaming service is going to do to our profits. So that's why we can't negotiate writing for streaming services the same way that we could for the, the network shows.
Yeah. Well, that's capitalism. Every opportunity, every slight change in anything that affects any industry whatsoever is going to be leveraged against workers.
Yeah.
Because they have the power within our government. So they're going to turn things against the workers, tighten the screw even more. And they've tightened it so much that people can't breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at their own cost. Look at this chart.
That's from one day of striking. And the studios have lost almost $10 billion in value, which would be enough to fund every ask the writers made for 25 years. That's how much the stocks went down just from this. But it's worth it to them, they think, if they can hang out long enough and writers get desperate enough and, the whole town, right? So all of the nightly shows, the Fallons and the Kimmels and all those, the talk shows, those are all going dark. And so it's also, all the people who work on those shows, all the places they go to eat or buy groceries or use incidental money for, so the whole town is going to be affected by this. And what the CEOs are hoping is that all of that anger about diminishing, economy will be turned on the writers. Right.
Yeah. But meanwhile, the reality is they can take a $10 billion loss in one day.
Yeah.
In one day. You can't do that unless the industry is making a trillion. Like, they see the long-term benefits of basically lowering the stature of writers to just like labor. Like AI could write a movie, they're just like, AI write a movie.
Well,
But
and that's one of the things they're counting on. That was one of the proposals,
yeah,
was that writers don't want to be replaced by chat GPT and AI. And instead, the only response to that was, we'll have a yearly meeting every year to hear your complaints about it.
and you'll be sitting in front of a computer, which will have AI responses like,
Yeah, exactly.
oh, it's okay. Something
Yeah. But the good news is we have progressive Newsom staying neutral, because why would he ever come down on the side of the workers? California Governor Gavin Newsom weighed in on the writer's strike, saying he was very worried about it. When called in by both sides, will intervene to the extent that both sides are willing and interested in that. That's not a friend of the working class on any level.
And so, like, the writer's strike, it's one strike that affects. Look, it affects the arts. TV for the general public is sort of an equalizer in that we all have something we can enjoy, and it's creative, and it's a distraction, which is good. It's a positive thing in theory, but like, imagine it being homogenized by more formulaic stuff because you have less creativity behind it. Like, and that's where they're going. They're having less they want less writers to work on projects. They're going to work with writers working with AI.
Yeah.
So it's just less hands-on creativity.
And the only people who will be able to afford that, to work in this gig economy, will be, wealthy, people from wealthy families who can subsidize their desire, their hobby, until it turns into a career. Yeah, I saw that Adam Conover called out the head of CNN and his disgusting inflated salary right on the air. It was pretty awesome.
I missed that.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. We probably should have had that on there. Anyway, there's, strikes, as we have been talking about, and it's the only thing I think giving us all some hope. They are contagious. We now have pilots at American Airlines voted to authorize a strike, and Southwest could be next, which is fantastic.
Pete, let's see if Pete champions in and
sends
Seagull's in. Stop the strike.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly.
No
strike. Does a Reagan. Everybody's Reagan now. It's just
the most pro
union Biden. Is that what you're going to say?
President ever.
Yeah, I know.
Growing
number of young people are joining and forming labor unions. Some call them Generation U. Coming of age during the Great Recession, Occupy, and Bernie Sanders presidential campaigns, those under 35 strongly back unions by 77%.
I like that. Let's spread that Generation U. Like, that's catchy.
Generation U. That's good, right?
Once you got to Z, I don't know what you call anything anymore.
Yeah.
Generation
I like
U.
Too.
Let's go.
That's good.
Can you read that? I can't even.
This is Shama Sawant's Worker Strike Back Party or movement. Okay. We need unions that aren't afraid to strike. We need union leaders who know the bosses aren't on our side. We need unions independent of the two parties of big business. We need a rank and file rebellion to transform our unions, fight the bosses, and win. Every place should be unionized.
Amen. And we got a lot of Teamsters in the face of UPS and other corporate bullies in America. More than 1.2 million Teamsters are driving home a clear message. The momentum of working people to take back and what they've rightly earned cannot be stopped.
I mean, these are the kind of militant messages we frankly have not had in this country up until just a couple of years ago. So it is really inspiring and refreshing to see this new group of union leaders, labor activists. And I mean, there's always been wonderful labor activists and union leaders, but labor activists. But, I do think that part of it is social media, that they have a bullhorn, because none of these people is ever on corporate media, ever. So this is a way to get their message up. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in fact, let's show the clip on the Haymarket May Day. So the history of May Day itself, it used to be Labor Day. So if you didn't follow the press, I mean, the French are damn near rioting. They're getting into serious confrontations with the police.
And, I mean, they are blowing up, they are blowing it up out there. They mean business. They are not going to deal with Macron's austerity line down at all.
Yeah. So this is a short clip just explaining the history of May Day. Here you go.
If you're not celebrating Labor Day on May 1st, it's literally because the US government didn't want you to. In May of 1886, workers peacefully rallied for an 8-hour workday at Haymarket Square in Chicago, the day after police killed one worker and injured several others. An anonymous person threw dynamite as police broke up the protest, and the blast and ensuing gunfire killed 7 police officers and 4 civilians. 7 anarchists were sentenced to death despite lack of evidence. 2 had their sentences commuted, 1 committed suicide, and 4 were hanged. The Haymarket Affair is the origin of International Workers' Day, held on May 1st, and is a holiday in most countries around the globe. But President Cleveland was concerned that a Labor Day on May 1st would commemorate the Haymarket Affair and increase global working class solidarity, so he changed the date to September. Very few American textbooks include the information, and some present the information inaccurately. Did you know May 1st was the original Labor Day?
So when you see that and you see the lengths that the U.S. goes to impede any kind of international solidarity, May Day was a U.S. invention. It was those anarchists in Haymarket Square, right? And that's where, and it's celebrated across the globe.
The world.
And yeah.
And we removed our holiday from that day so it would not be associated with this event that started here.
I mean, yeah, makes you become a little bit of a conspiracy theorist. My cheeks are so red from all of my drone bomb. Is that what my drink's called? What am I being served? What am I being overserved?
I just want to point this out. I don't have much information on it, but I did see the article.
I didn't see that.
The child labor happening in this country is crazy, absolutely absurd. And all these corporations are getting busted for hiring kids. And McDonald's had 2 10-year-olds working like 50-hour shifts or something stupid. It's just,
I mean, things that we thought were completely settled, like that Haymarket riot was about an 8-hour workday. I don't think anybody works an 8-hour workday anymore. But those were things that were settled. Like you got a weekend, you got 8-hour workday for the same pay, you got time off, you got paid sick leave, you got a living wage. Like we have gone back over 100 years now with the labor practices in this country.
And again, it's one of those issues where if you support Democrats, the Democrats should be the clear good side on this issue. But you've got Biden breaking strikes. You've got all these violations happening under Biden, and they're not doing anything about it.
Nothing. I mean, NAFTA was under Clinton, right? And TPP with Obama. Remember him like singing that into his, was that with Jimmy Fallon? You know, that's
yeah.
Trans-Pacific Partnership.
You down with the TPP instead of OPP? Down with TPP.
So clever and smart and funny. See you later, middle class. All right.
So we should move on, but I just want to talk about some of the framing lately.
Oh, yeah.
Workers, we're going to see all this PR and how they frame these stories. Marriott got caught stealing $9 million in workers' wages.
No. They were illegally keeping it.
They were just illegally keeping it. Not a big deal. But a reminder, the truth is wage theft is the largest type of theft in the United States, responsible for roughly 3 times as much as economic loss as other types of theft combined. Yeah. So,
but you rarely hear about that in regular media. All right.